Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everyone, welcome to today's talk. The topic is permanent values outlining the concept of Deen. And over here, I have noted down some references, and my talk is literally taken from all of these 5 references. There is a lot of work done in this talk, and I hope you find it useful. First, I will quote a phrase from the Quran. The Quran has given some commands or laws for the guidance of man, and rest are given as principles. These principles are called values, and as these are eternal and immutable, hence these are called permanent values. The development of the human self is dependent on these values. These values in reality are the characteristics of the human self, i.e., the way brightness, glitter, and shine are the fundamental property of a pearl. In the same way, creativity is the fundamental trait of developed self. Some of these characteristics are such which are specific to the divine self. The Islamic system is shaped through the hands of those who are an embodiment of these values, and it is the duty of this state to create such an environment in which these values are promoted. And in this way, the self of the members in the society can develop to as high a level as possible. Here is the reference. The outline of the presentation. I will briefly explain the root of qadr, which is relevant to the permanent values. Root of rizq, which is related to the means of sustenance. Why values? All systems are defined by certain values. 2 concepts of life. Some verses related to values, some permanent values, finally few verses, and then I will conclude this presentation. The root of qadr is mentioned here. It means estimate, scale, standard, the proportion and balance of something, comparing one thing with another, whether the same or not, making something according to a measurement, making something according to a pattern or model. It also means to have authority or control over something, to think and reflect in order to accomplish some affair or to prepare something. Now, the next is some applications of this root. Rivers and streams flow in relation to their capacity to carry water. It is their qadr. So every stream has a certain qadr, and that qadr can expand, for example, in the case of flooding. Everything in the world is according to certain laws and principles. Precision, purpose, and scaling in everything in Allah's amr, and then creation. Potentials in creation reaching to their destination following qadr. So values are the ones which help us to reach our destination. The manifestation of the latent potentials of the human self as per Quranic guidance to reach its defined destination. Scales and values defined within the creative program of Allah in the universe as well as in the human life and the world. The universe has a rational basis. There is no blind nature as some people think. This scaling explains the system of Rububiyat and its constituents. Qadr in relation to our choices in life, all paths have their scaling. There's a lot more to it, and I will say that if somebody wants to know more, they should look in the Lughatul Quran. Root of rizq. Here is the root for rizq. Every one of those things from which benefit can be taken are that food which is made available from Allah as a means of sustenance and nourishment. Rain is also called rizq, as is fixed earning. Its basic meanings, according to Ibn Faris, are to give something at a required time. Then it was applied to any gift without any constraint of time, which means that over a period of time, these roots also develop. The Quran has called all means of sustenance related to food as rizq of Allah. And we should keep it in mind that this rizq of Allah is equally applicable to this life as well as to next life. Also, those means and resources to be rizq which are required after death for the development of the self. So it's a very comprehensive term. Now, some of the applications are all those means and resources which are required for the nourishment of the human body and self. So it takes into account both. Under the system of Deen, Allah has declared that the rizq managed by it is from Allah. In a wrong system, there is always an unjust distribution of rizq, leading to exploitation and poverty economically. Under the man-device system, there is nothing arranged for the development of the human self. It is not even recognized recognized as an entity which can survive human death. Resources of rizq are made available by Allah in the world, and it is the duty of mu'mineen to arrange for their production and availability, and then to ensure their equitable distribution. Using rizq to exploit other human beings by any technique is declared to be a severe crime by the Quran. Why do we need values? I looked at it a bit more incisively, and I thought we should share this as well. Our values are important because these help us to grow and develop, help us to create the future we want to experience. We had a series of talks on values make us available. If you remember, Dr. Hamid Mia gave 3 talks in detail on this aspect. 11 values or laws were shared with their details and applications in life. Since we make choices and decisions in life, hence we need values to direct these towards a specific purpose. For example, we need to be disciplined and work hard to acquire a degree. Or for that matter, to earn a living, we need to have certain skills which require effort, focus, and dedication. From values, we can formulate laws at a collective level. So what happens is that all these values, which we are going to go through very in summary or briefly, then the state has to formulate certain laws to implement them or to follow them. Each human being has certain potentials which can be known and unknown. In order to manifest these potentials, we need guidance in life. Parents, teachers, relations, friends, government, etc. provide us with information and resources to utilize these potentials to achieve our aims in life. And that is why we also need the Quran. I haven't put down Quran here, and the Quran is an additional guidance which we need. The world which we see around us is based on the assumption that life ends with death. Thus, all prevalent values are there to guide us towards that success which this system defines for us. So if there is no Quran, then success is defined by the system around us. Merely pursuing this aim is termed to be animalistic, living by the Quran. The Quran puts forward the permanent values which do not change with time and are the same across the universe. Wherever there is a being with choice and intent, these values will be equally applicable to them as well. Understanding this aspect is very important. Now, this point is important because the values which are given in the Quran, of course, the way they are explained are in some context or some event taking place at that time or from the history. But the value itself is equally applicable to any being who has choice and intent anywhere in the universe. So if there is a Quran somewhere else, the values will remain the same, but in terms of their application and in terms of some events or incidents taking place over there, those will vary. Since these values are immutable, hence their application is also to that self which wishes to become eternal. I'll go over it again. Since these values are immutable, hence their application is also to that self which wishes to become eternal, i.e. the choice is ours. So do we want to become eternal or not? So that is what we should keep it in mind, that these values, we should not take them lightly. If we wish to end our life with death, then we do not need these values. If we wish to remain permanent, then we need to function within these values by making a choice as noted in Surah Baqarah, verse 256, La ikraha fid Deen, if you remember. Some of the known values of the man-made system in 2021. I thought we should have some comparison as well, and we should keep it in mind what Quran is talking about and where we are in 2021. Might is right. We know it is prevalent everywhere. And justifies the means. Human being can justify anything. They have a wrong aim and they can justify it, and they use the means to get their aim. Divide and rule, i.e. rule over other human beings by whatever method and technique. And we had shared this before as well, that the people who are internally divided, that is, they have cognitive dissonance, they will always resort to divide and rule. It happens at family levels, it happens at a higher level as well. Earn maximum profit with minimum effort. That is the value of the capitalist system. Fulfilling needs of the majority is not my problem. So that is why we see when they talk of poverty, they just talk of numbers. It's one life, hence I must derive the maximum benefit and happiness from it. Life ends with death, hence I need to get the best from it for myself. We should pay attention to this. A lot of people talk about it even on media. Success generally means wealth, possessions, wife or husband of own choice, children, especially sons, cars, houses, high-value jobs, status, education, which gives these benefits. Some charitable work, just to satisfy us emotively, some religious rituals to please own God, etc. This is an individual's definition of success. National success is the sum total of these definitions. How to achieve it? So individuals, they form a nation. So if we put all of them together, particularly people at the top, and that defines the values of that particular nation. By those legitimate means defined by the values of the nation state in which individuals live. Reward is for the capital, not the work. And this is the basis of the capitalist system. So if somebody has accumulated a lot of money, he or she doesn't have to do anything. They just can live on interest. All religious values form part of this man-made system. This is why we do not see much difference in the outlook and character of religious and non-religious people, and we know it. All decisions to be made democratically, i.e. 51% majority to decide who rules them through man-made laws and values. Media helps to manufacture consent. And this is very interesting that even 51% who are in majority and they think that they have elected a government, they elect a government to rule their own selves. So they wish to be ruled. So they make a decision to be ruled. Parties are a must for the political system to function effectively. They promise that which attracts maximum number of votes. We know how the manifestos come out of different parties and how they promise and then they break their promises later on. There is no life in the hereafter. There is no purpose of human creation. It is pure evolution which got us here, and everything which the brain does is due to evolution, which has turned us into a higher form of an animalistic existence. There is no accountability beyond this worldly life. And that is the basis on which the world is functioning as of today. Now, there are two concepts of life. Under concept one, a human being is the name for his physical body, which reached to the present form according to the process of evolution. It is a machine which remains functioning under physical laws, and when this stops working, then that will be the end of the human being. This is called the mechanistic concept of life. In this concept, the question of wahi, i.e. revelation from Allah, is not accepted, as life is lived under the physical laws and for the human world. Human beings in power formulate laws and values. This is the reason that every country has its own values and laws, so much so that even within a country, they have different laws legislated by human beings in power. So it's quite interesting that at least have some consistency, but the laws change from council to council even, and from within the same region as well, you'll find laws. And then from country to country, same human being is subjected to different laws. And that is injustice according to the Quran, as we will see it later. Concept two, under this concept, when life reached the human form, then such a thing was added which was not there before, and nor it was the creation of the physical laws. This is called the divine energy, and this is known as human self. So we have human self, and actually we should have pride in having that self. Animals don't have. This is what gives man choice and intent and makes him responsible for his deeds. With death, the human body disintegrates, but the human self does not disappear. It goes forward, and this is called the life in the hereafter. We have gone over these two concepts a number of times before. It is our choice under which concept we wish to live our life in this world. So if we see that under concept one, there is no choice for the concept number two. It is only the Quran which gives us both concepts, and not only gives us both concepts, but clearly defines them throughout its folds. And that is very interesting, which we should keep it in mind. And this then decides where our self ends up after our death. So it is in our hand, according to the Quran, that where we wish to end up after death. The set of values applicable under each concept are different. So values are totally different. We have seen the values of the man-made system, not all, but some of them. And we will later on see the values which the Quran puts forward. some evidence in pictures to remind us of our aim. Now, this is a picture of two children equal to any other child in the world at the time of their birth. Both were born exactly the same like you and me and all those who are rich. And this is the picture of children who are trying to get some food. Man-made system turned them into begging human children. Please keep these in mind, and then we will go through those values. No family needs to suffer. There is enough space on the planet. And just see, because of flooding, they are homeless or they are in a critical state. And they are exactly human beings like all of us. And this is also human beings. No human being needs to do this. There is enough rizq on earth. And we have gone through it under the attribute of Rabb. Yatim among 7.5 billion people. There are people all around this human being sitting next to some pillar. And he is yatim and miskeen, to which the Quran points our attention. And these are also human beings who are, Quran says, they all deserve respect and dignity. Bani Adam with no respect in 2021. And there are plenty of these across the world. And then there is another human being who is trying to help construct a palace while living in a mud hut himself or herself. And finally, over here we got COVID, and they call it a tsunami. Mega and micro scale tsunami created by human hands. And there is a poverty, the tsunami of poverty. They can't see that, but they can see COVID because it affects their life, because they have created it, and now they want to see how it affects everyone else. And they got whole media attention. And the famous verse, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَىٰ كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. And the Quran beautifully puts it right at the fundamental level that every child of Adam, see, Insan hasn't been quoted here, Bashar hasn't been quoted here, Adam, right at the basic level, Quran says. And they have been given everything in land as well in the sea. And razaqnahum, for all of them, the rizq has been provided, or it's been provided as tayyib. Wafaddalnahum, that they have been given superiority over a lot of Allah's creation. Mimman khalaqna tafdila. Just keep this verse in mind and then see these pictures and keep them in part of our consciousness for the future, because these things are going to come back again and again. Concluding ethical reasoning, a glass on human rights. Now, this slide I shared before as well under critical thinking. And this is very interesting, that it is not that these human beings don't know. That is the point I'm trying to bring out here. All humans are born free and equal in dignity and rights. This is in the UN Charter. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. While I'm going through these points, please keep those pictures in mind. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family. Everyone has the right to education. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kinds, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property or status. See, these human beings are very smart. They haven't left anything out, but they follow none. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. So the question which should come to our mind, what if the law is wrong? Though the principles outlined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are universally accepted in theory, virtually every country violates them. Virtually every country violates them because they think life will end with death and there is no accountability. Might is right followed. And this is the point which we have to convince ourselves that nothing will change unless we come to the Quran. Some verses with values. Now I have quoted some verses over here which I thought are very pertinent to our topic of today. First is Afa Gaira Deenillahi Yabguna Walahu Aslama Man Fis Samawati wal Arde Taun wa Karhan wa Alayhi Yurja'un. Do they seek for other than the deen of Allah? So deen of Allah is complete, and we know it. There are verses on that. And if they want to pursue some other, then they will create the mess in which they live. While all creatures in the heavens and on earth, willing or unwilling, bow to his will, and to him shall they return. So everyone is following the law of requital, and everything is following his laws, whether we like it or don't like it. Our body follows Allah's laws, and the state in which we are is also explained in the Quran. When Quran says, if you don't follow the Quran, this is the kind of world you will create with your own hands. Laisa bi'amaniyikum wala amaniyi ahlul kitabe man ya'mal su'an yujza bihi wala yajid lahu min dunillahi waliyyun wala nasira. Beautiful verse sums up the reality of the law of requital, that it is not your desires or those of the people of the book. So it is not our prayers and our desires which will make a difference. Whoever works evil will be requited accordingly, nor will he find besides Allah any wali or helper. So Quran has made it very clear, if you do not come to the Quran, then the world you will have all those problems which human beings create for each other. وَخَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ وَلِتُجْزَى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. We have gone through this verses number of times, and this defines law of requital, that whatever we do is accountable. Whatever we do. And that is important for us. It's not merely thinking. We have to follow through whatever we intend to do. So actions speak louder than just words. Importance of human choice and freedom. Ma kana li bashrin an yutiyahu Allahul kitaba wal hukma wal nubuwata summa yaqula lin nasi kunu ibadan li min dunillahi walakin kunu rabbaniyina bima kuntum tuallimuna al kitaba wa bima kuntum tadrusun. Now this verse makes it very clear that no human being has the right to get work or get obedience from another human being. Everything must be according to the book of Allah. And even if the messenger of Allah, who has been given nubuwwat, and he's been called Khulq Azim, he cannot ask other human beings to follow his orders, to follow his desires. He himself follows the Quran, and everyone else also is supposed to follow the Quran, and only then the system of Deen will emerge. So it is against Allah's laws to subjugate another human being to man-made laws. And that is what we should also be. We should be very uncomfortable with the world around us. We should dislike the man-made laws, because man-made laws are subjugating other human beings and making them slaves. And if we are the beneficiary of that, we should think about it very seriously, because otherwise we will never get the best out of the Quran. Yawma la tamliku nafsun li nafsin shay'an wa amru yawma izin lillah. We have gone through these verses as well. Before that, it comes Uma adraka ma yawmuddin, that should we tell you what is yawmuddin? And over here, Quran tells us what is yawmuddin. In yawmuddin, the day when no self shall have power for another self. That is, no human being will have the right to ask another human being to obey him or her. This is against human's respect and dignity. For the command that day will be with Allah, so that day everyone will follow Allah's laws. And that is something which we should keep it in mind when I'm going through all these permanent values. And over here I've quoted another verse, Kul man rabbus samawati wal ardi kullillahu. Kul afattakhastum min dunihi awliya'a la yamlikuna li anfusihim nafan wala zarran. Kul hal yastavil ama wal basiru am hal tastavil zulumatu wan nur am ja'alu lillahi shuraka khalaqu ka khalqihi fatashabaha al khalqu alayhim. Kullillahu khaliqu kulli shay'in wa huwal wahidul qahar. Say, who is the Rabb of Sama and earth? And everyone will say Allah. Do you then take protectors other than him? That is, you establish the system of your own choice and subjugate other human beings, such as have no power either of good or for harm themselves. And we allow them to acquire that power. If we don't give them power, they will have no power. Say, are the blind equal with those who see? Can't you see it, that you are slave of the system? Are the depths of darkness equal to light? Or do they assign to Allah partners as He has created so that the creation seem to them similar? Say, Allah is the creator of all things. He is the one Qahar. So when we come to the Quran, we also acquire this power. At least at the first stage is we understand. Lahu muwaqqibatum min bayni yadayhi wa min khalfihi yahfazunahu min amrillah. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Wa iza arada Allahu biqawmin su'an fala maradda lahu. I've highlighted the value for which I put down this verse, which says that first is about the law of requital, that everyone is under observation all the time. And this is one way of saying that there are forces which are watching you. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. The Quran has made it very clear, unless you change your own thinking, nothing will change in the outer world. Dr. Hamid Mia has discussed this a number of times in his presentations. So we have to change what is within ourselves. Anzalna minas samai ma'an fasalat awdiyatun biqadriha fahtam ala sailo zabadan rabiyan. وَمِمَّا يُوقِدُونَ عَلَيْهِ فِي النَّارِ ابْتِغَاءَ حِلْيَةٍ أَوْ مَتَاعٍ زَبَدٌ مِثْلُهُ كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ وَالْبَاطِلَ فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ. Again, over here, this verse is, again, we have discussed it before as well, and this part has been quoted many times. Dr. Hamid also quoted it. That what is good for mankind, that remains on earth. But that only remains on earth when we make an effort and establish a system of Deen. Otherwise, if we wait that people who are wrong will, over a period of 50,000 years, they will go down themselves and somehow, by miracle, some new system will emerge, forget it. It doesn't happen like that. There has to be a human effort behind the change which we want to bring in this life. So over here, Quran has beautifully said that by giving two similes or metaphors, He sends down water from the skies and the channels flow. If we say that He sends down the Quran from Himself, and what happens is that according to our capacity, we absorb it. According to our qadr, we take it, what we want to take. And we should have an infinite capacity to take it. And that is the point which, in my view, beautifully comes out of this verse, that if we want to get maximum benefit, then we can increase our qadr. Now, next verse is Allazina ukhriju min diyarihim bighayri haqqin illa an yaqulu rabbuna Allahu walaula daf'ullahi an-nasa ba'dahum bi ba'din la huddimat swami'u wa biyaun salawatum wa masajidu yuzkaru fi hasmullahi kaseeran wala yansurunallahu man yansuruhu innallaha la qawiyyun aziz. Now this in fact is related to the previous verse. What Allah says that those who have been expelled from their homes in defiance of right, except that they say our Rabb is Allah. If Allah did not check one set of people by means of another, there would surely have been pulled down monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques in which the name of Allah is commemorated in abundance. Allah will certainly aid those who aid Him, for verily Allah is full of strength and He is Aziz. So over here, the Quran has made it very clear that things will only change if people stand up against injustice. And over here, I have highlighted some of these values. That over here, that one set of people have to replace another set of people or fight against another set of people. And if we want Allah's help, then we have to help Him. And then His Qawiyyun Aziz is another value here, which is in fact an attribute which we have to acquire. And this verse we have also discussed before. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم ولا يمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم ولا يبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم امنا يعبدونني لا يشركون بي شيئا ومن كفر بعد ذلك فاولئك هم الفاسقون. The value over here, which is very important and is immutable, is Iman and Amal Saleh will lead to what the Quran has stated over here, that you will get established in the earth. But this has to be very intense and focused. And then Quran says, don't do any shirk. Don't associate any value with the Quranic value. If you want to follow the Quran, follow it 100%. And only then you will get the benefit from this recipe or from this formula. Now we come to the main part of this presentation, in which I will go through some of the permanent values. Over here, I have just highlighted them and I have given some references. It's a very big subject and it will come back again and again in our future discussions as well. Human beings have a choice in life in selecting any available course of life, but do not have a choice to avert the consequences of following the selected path. In my view, this is a permanent value, that we can follow course A or B or C or D in life, but it will never happen that I follow course A and I get the results of course D. Existence of a human self and its intrinsic ability to survive physical death. Since we possess a self with choice and intent, hence no human being has the right to subjugate any other human being to obey him or her. See, the important thing is that I've got a self and another human being also has a self. So I don't have a right to subjugate another human being who is equal to me. Even in animal life, we can see that sheep does not control another sheep. A dog will probably control a flock of sheep, but not a sheep by another sheep. It is only in the human world where choice and intent has been given and they exploit others. Shirk, this means never to contaminate the Quranic formula for the establishment of Deen, deliberately or otherwise. The results will be the same. If we contaminate the Quran, we'll not get the benefits of the Quran. So that this system does not get established, thus keeping human beings in bondage. If we keep doing shirk, we will remain slaves of others, or we will slave others and we will also remain slaves of our own desires. There is no contradiction in the Quran. It should be consulted on that basis for getting the optimum out of it. There are people who find contradictions in the Quran. If they find contradictions in the Quran, Quran is not for them. Those who want to get the maximum out of Quran, they must read it as if there are no contradictions in the Quran, because then things start falling together. There is no compulsion in the matter of Deen, i.e., we can live by any belief system of our choice. Iman is only that which we acquire through our free volition. So it is our choice. In this verse, if we go through it, and throughout the Quran says darkness and light are not the same. Those who have knowledge and those who do not have knowledge are not the same. So these comparisons are done throughout the Quran. So we should keep it in mind that under no compulsion, we should acquire Iman, because that will not be Iman and will not be able to benefit from the Quran. There are only two kinds of people in the world with reference to their self, not physically. Physically, we are all equal as human beings. It is our convictions, our belief system. Hizbul Shaitan and Hizbullah. We have gone through it previously as well. Needs as defined by the Quran under rizq must be met in respect of every human being. No exception that so-and-so needs less and I need more because I'm holding on to more. No, my needs are exactly the same as any other child in the world or as any other human being in the world at the level which is defined by the Quran. Every child of Adam is entitled to respect and dignity at a fundamental level. Never to assist those who are criminals. We should keep it in mind that we, even living under the capitalist system, we should try to avoid doing any injustice as much as possible. Promotion of maruf and forbidding of munkar leads to balance and peace in the society. This is throughout the Quran, and you can see some of these verses. Unity of mankind as a whole in this world, as human beings, choice of beliefs not affected. Causing divisions is a serious crime against humanity. Balanced deeds replace the ill effects of evil deeds. The Quran has made it very clear that it is not that I have done something wrong and I cannot overcome the bad effects of that. What I should do is do a lot of good, do a lot of salih deeds. Justice must be done even if it is against one's own self. No one has the right to stop movement and migration of human beings across the world. We must understand that this word is loaned to me. It has been given temporarily to me. It is not there to permanently become its ruler. So I have no right to stop the movement of another human being from one part to another. They can go anywhere on Allah's land. And the more we do this, that is stopping this migration and movement of people, the bigger criminal we become as each day passes. And we should keep it in mind. When we are holding a passport in our hand and a visa in our hand, we should detest it from the core of our hand. I'll give you an example. We are all traveling in a big jumbo jet or something like 300 people in an aeroplane. The moment we come to the airport and we all in the aeroplane interact with each other, we smile at each other, we have a good conversation with each other. Even with an aeroplane, we have a business class and a first class and an economy class. Let's say we are all in economy class. So there are three parties over there as well, divisions. And when we come to the airport, we have lines. This is EU's lines, this is non-EU's lines, this is the third world line, this is Africa, this is Australia. Why? Same human beings were fine traveling together, and suddenly they are divided. No people get destroyed in this world unless they have been warned, part of the law of requital. Status according to deeds takes into account the human self. So at a human self's level, we have grades, and it is important that through understanding these permanent values and through understanding the Quran, we should raise the status of ourself higher and higher. The responsibility of one will not be borne by others. This we know it. The day I die, I'm responsible for my own self. As I'm living this life also, whatever is going into myself, that is mine. Nobody else can share it. Restoring balance in human society is a must. Quran has called it ihsan. Agreements with other nations must be honored. Where dishonesty is suspected, then it should be clearly brought out in the open, not through diplomacy trying to subvert it. If you remember what happened with the Iran deal, they subverted it. That is wrong according to the Quran. If you make a commitment, live up to it. If you don't want it, clearly state the reasons for that. Fulfill commitments and agreements, as this will be questioned. This is being questioned all the time. If I break a commitment right now, that will immediately affect myself. It's so simple. Obedience of the law. Law here means the book of Allah. Lawlessness should not be spread. System based on mutual consultation. Quran has clearly said that all mu'mineen should come together, and within the values of the Quran, then they make decisions. Do not assign national responsibilities to incompetent people. Quran has very clearly said, never let incompetent people get anywhere near a task which they cannot do. So that means we should know the requirements of a task, and we should know who are capable of doing that. But if we make a mistake, the nations have to pay. Competence needs to be checked based on evidence. Detailed criteria needs to be worked out. This is here, then we have to make laws and rules and regulations and sub-clauses. What is beyond need should be made available for others, individual and collective. Some time back, I thought it is collectively applicable, but it is very much applicable to individual as well. If I want to take over the responsibilities of Deen tomorrow, then I must minimize needs today. And whatever spare I can do, then it must not stay in my pocket. It must go to somebody who is needy. Somebody who is more needy should get it. Rububiyat on universal basis. Responsibility for risks rests on society. So we should not take it that I'm okay, or I'm fulfilling my responsibility of helping someone. We should keep looking at it that it is the society as a whole which solves the problem of the society. Those who have knowledge are not equal to those who do not have it. This is totally, you can see that in democracy, whether somebody has knowledge or not, he has equal vote. According to the Quran, no, they are not equal. They're not the same. So people who want to be like people who have knowledge, they must make an effort to get it. And the society should make the means available to them. Possession of resources and means of risk to be in the control of the central authority functioning on behalf of Allah. Creating an environment to make doing solid deeds easier and welcomed. In today's world, if we see from country to country, probably doing wrong according to the book of Allah is easier than to do something right. Safeguarding chastity. We have gone through it before as well. Dr. Hamid gave a complete presentation on that. What is beneficial for mankind remains on earth. We have just seen it in one of the verses. Criterion for differentiation is kafir and mu'min. Subservience of malaika means that we employ these for the benefit of mankind. Leaving these unemployed is to not use our potentials, and hence is equivalent of kufr. So what malaika are available to us in this life, we must make use of them. First is to find out and then make use of them. Providing education, training, and means to develop oneself for everyone is the responsibility of the system of Deen. This is important because the Quran has very clearly said, "Yu'allimul kataba wal hikma yuzakkihim." So just leaving or everyone will figure it out. No, it is the responsibility of all of us. And at this stage, it is our responsibility to provide it to our children. And the children's responsibility is to become that self which the Quran wants them to become, so that they don't suffer like others. Achieving freedom from fear and huzn is a permanent value. I am working to achieve this goal in this life. There's no point in living in fear and huzn when we have formula with us. No riba in the economic system. This is a big subject. Once we talk about the economic system of Deen, our system of sustenance in the Deen, we will elaborate that. Recompense according to the effort of everyone, providing job according to the competence of everyone, however, job for all who can work. So everyone who can work, if we don't make use of their abilities to work, that is injustice. So just paying somebody who can do work while he or she is sitting at home saying he's unemployed is injustice. Death being a fact of life, hence self to accept its status as a fact. To serve as a deadline, hence making system highly efficient and productive within the permanent values. I have included death as a permanent value because death has significant impact on our psyche. And as the followers of the Quran, we must understand that keeping death in mind will remind us that we have a specified limited time on this earth, and we have to do as much possible as we can. And that is important because that is how we stay motivated. And that is how we become extremely productive. All divine attributes applicable to the human self to be manifested, education, training, and environment. So we have to, all divine attributes. So we have to provide training for that as well. We have gone through some of these attributes previously, like Khalqiyat and Rububiyat, and being Aziz and being Rahim. The Quran to be the constitution. Quran as a whole is the constitution of the system of Deen, not an iota of revenge and justice, reformation and provision for an opportunity to reform. There is no concept of revenge in crime and punishment. Once we come to crime and punishment, we will discuss it in detail. Whatever we do to other human beings, because they have a self as well, they have committed a crime, fine. They should be reformed if they want to be reformed. If they don't want to be reformed and still want to do wrong, then of course there are punishments for that. But that does not mean that their criteria, their potential as a human being or their respect as a human being has disappeared. Still, they have a choice. The psyche of facing east or west as a ritual to be eliminated, it's a chain to human intellect's progress. Saying that, okay, people can doing that. No, we have to reason with them. We have to point their attention to that by thinking that you're facing east or west, you're going to get to some heavenly life. It is not possible because there is no qasab in that. There is no action in that. There is no deed involved in that. Nothing has changed in the world by my facing east or west. The law of qisas to be promoted and established, another, we will cover it under crime and punishment. Making a wasiyat to be a duty for all, to be facilitated and guidance provided. This whole thing will be worked out as a law, as with sub-clauses. It is a must. Quran has asked mu'mineen to make a will. It is a duty on them. It is a fard. Need for 2 witnesses and put down in writing in all transactions, sub-clauses to be worked out. We must not carry out any transaction without having 2 witnesses. If we do it without that, then particularly for a higher transactions, then we are going against this value. We should not feel ashamed of it. Or so-and-so is my friend and I'm lending him some money, which I expect to get back. Then we should put it down in writing and have 2 witnesses. Nothing wrong with it. That is the way we should practice this value. In case of war, prisoners of war to be either freed or exchanged through compensation. No method of torture, physical or psychological, will ever be used against human respect. And this is against human respect and dignity. If somebody doesn't give you the details, that is fine. Wait. The system should have enough tolerance and enough strength to tolerate minor lapses of human beings here and there. If somebody has committed a crime, We will never torture him and never physical apply any torture to him, even psychological. Just ask them question. If they don't come out with that, the system should deal with it on a long-term basis. Reform them. Look at their background and see why did they do it in the first place. No diplomacy, straight business based on permanent values. All diplomacy will disappear as far as this system is concerned. Research and development in every sphere of life promote thinking and reasoning. For example, critical thinking, analytical thinking, lateral thinking, Quranic thinking. Total elimination of corporal punishment except what is in the Quran. No domestic violence, physical or emotional or both, to be tolerated. Education, guidance, and counseling will be employed to its maximum to make people realize that this is a limitation of myself if I apply some violence or manipulation or intimidation on other human beings. This is something which needs education and training, and it can be family planning to be promoted in every respect, education, guidance, and help for newly married. Hereafter. Now, I have included it as a permanent value because it has an impact. It has impact on our whole of our life, whole of our existence. Emphasis on this aspect through the education of the human self, its recognition within each one and its development aspects to be highlighted. Defense, need for it, training free from bullying and insults. We will never use the kind of methods used in the modern army during training. There's so much bullying and insults goes on in these military academies. It's hard to believe. Iman and solid deeds help to develop self, essential for a righteous life. Aesthetic sense. In a religious world, all these things, some of these things are forbidden. In a system of Deen, music, adornment, entertainment, libraries, art, painting, sports, health promotion, rest days, recreation parks, country parks, tourism, cafes, restaurants, you name it, people will have it and they will relax as well, of course, within the permanent values. Marriage, a contract between two consenting adults. Simple ceremony and procedure to be worked out, and we need education and guidance for that. Acquisition of knowledge. I put down some of these points, and of course, who knows what is going to emerge in the future, and we will find out ourselves as well through research and development. Learn to create in every field of human functioning, all verses inviting to use aql applicable. Very high level of use of aql, the way Quran says. On every other page, or in fact on every page, there is an instruction for that. Philosophy of history as a model. We must keep an eye on the history and what happened to nations who didn't follow the values of the Quran. Reward is for the work and not the capital. Very important. Reward is for the work and not the capital. Allah is with us wherever we are. I will not expand on that because there is a lot into it which we need to look at. One man, one wife, exception as laid down in the Quran, sub-clauses to be devised in the light of the Quran if required. We have gone through it. Brother Ubadur Rahman, he looked at it in detail. Quranic concept of Allah with all attributes and their understanding, education and training in manifesting those attributes which are applicable to us as humans. Probably I've mentioned it earlier as well, and we have gone over it previously. These are some of the permanent values which can help us enhance our understanding, and we can use these to remind ourselves on a continuous basis. We need to compare with the values of the man-made system so that we remain fully aware of where we are and where we ought to be. So there is a lot more in the Quran, and we will give ourselves some training once we look at the verses of the Quran at some stage. So when we are reading the Quran, we should, in every verse, we should see that, is there a value here for me? And that is important. And we will see that our ability to decipher these values out of various verses will keep increasing. And that will make the reading of the Quran very interesting and very attractive. Finally, هو الذي يتوفاكم بالليل ويعلم ما جرحتم بالنهار ثم يبعثكم فيه ليقضى أجل مسمى ثم عليه مرجعكم ثم ينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. It is he who does take yourself by night. This is when our sleep at night is compared to our death, and has knowledge of all that you have done by day. By day does he raise you up again, that a term defined be fulfilled. In the end, unto him will be your return, then he will show you all that you did. So we should not wait that we should be told by Allah in the next life. We should know right here where we are by using the Quranic criteria. This aspect will again turn up at some point in time. Wal baladul tayyibu yakhruju nabatuhu bi'izni rabbihi wallazi khabusa la yakhruju illa nakida. Kadhalika nusarrifu al-ayati liqaumin yashkurun. Very interesting verse which compares with the agriculture of the plants and the land. From the land which is clean and good, by the law of its Rabb, springs up produce after its kind. So we have to convert ourselves into a fertile land where Iman and Amal Saleh start growing. And they are growing. Of course, I'm talking to the converted. But since this presentation is for wider human beings in the world, so we should look at it and enjoy it. When a farmer is tilling his land, he enjoys doing it because he can anticipate, he can forecast, he can look ahead to the pleasure of getting his crops and fruit and of course the associated benefits. But from the land that is bad springs up nothing but that which is not of much benefit. So permanent values are the ones which help us to prepare the land of ourself to grow the system of Deen. Should I put it like that? Thus do we explain the science by various signs to those who wish to manifest their potentials. We need permanent values to bring the best out of each one of us, and then tell others that the system of Deen can be established if these values are followed. Designing and creating a model where good will be able to grow and multiply. So it's an excellent metaphor. The fertile land, a land which has been prepared for the seed, and then it will grow into whatever we mean to grow. And of course, we need to grow a system of Deen for the good of mankind. Finally, conclusions. Values make us valuable as human beings, a higher level of existence. It is our choice to adhere to our inherited belief systems or to question them and then change them. Each one of us is born in an environment which has its own values and culture. If we are comfortable with this, then we do not need to change. However, if we become uncomfortable, then we need to make an effort to question and search for an alternative. That is the beginning of an effort to find guidance of the Quran. The permanent values become applicable when we feel the need to develop ourselves, when there is a clash between a higher value and a physical value. Opting for the higher values elevates ourselves. When studying the Quran, we need to look for all those values which help us towards the system of Deen, whether those are applicable at individual level or collective level. We should always keep it in mind that I am an individual who is part of mankind, who is part of Jamaat-e-Momineen, who is part of TOLU-E-ISLAM. Whatever way we can look at it, we should try to see our own position in relation to others. Some we have shared today, while others will be covered under our discussion on the system of Deen. Thanks for listening to this presentation.